All right, in this video we're going to look at formulas and equations and then being able to rewrite them. And I'll show you more exactly what that means here in just a minute. But our I can statements for this lesson, you're going to take an equation and you're going to solve it for y. So with all of these equations and formulas we have, you're going to have more than one variable. The least you'll have is 2, or you could have 3, 4, or 5 variables, depending on if it's an equation or if we're looking at a formula, like how to find the volume of a sphere or something. So we're going to be taking those and then solving them for a different variable. So it may be kind of fuzzy right now, but here's what it's going to look like. Okay, first of all, we're going to look at solving an equation for y. So if you look at this equation right here, it says 2x plus y equals equals 7. So our goal for this video would be, I want to solve it for y. I want to get this y all by itself on one side of the equal sign. Okay? I'm not going to end up with y equals and then just a number. Okay? I don't know what x is, so I can't plug something in. So that x isn't just going to disappear on its own. I'm still going to have an x somewhere in my answer. I'm just basically taking this equation and rearranging it so that it says y equals and then the rest of it. Okay, so I'm going to give you a couple steps to follow. First step is you want to move the x portion, so that's going to be the x or whatever's with the x, to the other side of the equal sign. Okay, so in this case, I would take this entire 2x and I would need to move it to the other side of the equal sign. Okay, and then step number 2, and this won't always be necessary, but if it's necessary, you are going to get rid of the number in front of the y. Okay, in this case, I don't have a number that's in front of the y, but we'll get to some examples where there is a number in front of the y that you'll have to get rid of. All right, so let's jump right into this and let's do an example. So let's take this one that I had right here, 2x plus y equals 7. Okay, first thing I said to do was you wanted to get rid of that, the x portion. All right, so I'm going to look at this 2x, okay? And you're going to ask yourself, is it positive or is it negative? Well, there's no negative sign in front of it, so that means it's a positive 2x. And I'm going to move that entire piece over to the other side. Since it's positive, to move it, I need to subtract 2x. And you know what you do to one side, you have to do to the other. Okay, so over on the left, 2x minus 2x is going to cancel. And notice the only thing I have left with is y. And then on the other side, you cannot subtract these together and make it 5x because the 2 has an x and the 7 does not. They are not like terms, so we need to keep them separated. Now, you're actually going to be using this process a lot in Chapter 4. It is, I believe, whenever we start graphing, you're going to be solving equations for y. And whenever we get to that point, you will always see the equation with the x portion listed first. So in other words, it would not say 7 minus 2x. They would flip that around and they would write negative 2x, because it's negative right there. And then that 7 is positive, so it would stay plus 7. Okay, and then my second step was just to get rid of the number that's in front of the y. There's nothing there in this instance, so here's my answer. I have solved it for y. I've basically just rearranged the equation so that it says y equals negative 2x plus 7. Okay, let's look at another one here. Let's say we have negative 4x plus 3y equals 6. Okay, so I'm going to follow my steps from previously. First thing I want to get rid of is this whole x portion. Now notice on this one it's a negative 4x. So this time, in order to move it, I need to add 4x to both sides. So they cancel on the left. And notice this time I'm left with 3y. And on the right-hand side, again, I'm going to write the x portion first. So a positive 4x. And then that 6 is positive, so I'll write plus 6. Now, on this one, we still have the 3 that's in front of the y. So we need to get rid of that 3. And you should know that we'll need to divide by 3. But whenever you go to divide by 3 on the other side, you actually have to divide both terms by 3. You can't just do one or the other. It has to be done to both of them. So these 3's cancel, and I'm left with y equals. And then over on the right-hand side, simplify them if you can. If you can't, just leave them in fraction form. So like this part that's with the x, notice how it says 4/3 x. I can't simplify that fraction. I know it's improper, but we're going to leave it as an improper fraction for right now. When we get into graphing, you're going to want them to stay fractions. So I have 4/3 x. And then this next part, 6/3, I know that can reduce down to 2. 6 divided by 3 is 2. So I've simplified everything. My y is by itself. So here we took some equations, solved them for y. Later, we're going to be taking actual formulas, volume formulas, area formulas, perimeter formulas, that kind of thing, and solving them for a different variable.